Today, I am so excited to welcome Kimberly Fisher to Your Body is Not the Problem podcast. Kimberly is a Childfree by Choice advocate. She is a wife, she is a badass. And I mean, the best part, I think, is that you're unapologetically yourself always. And I think that's something we can all look up to. So, welcome to the podcast, Kimberly.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
So, I thought today it would be really fun for us to have a discussion and chat about how the fact that society thinks that every woman should be a mother, how that impacts the body image of those who choose not to be a mother. But to kick off, would you mind telling us more about you and how did you know you didn't want kids and when did you know you didn't want kids?
So I am 29, and there has never been a time in my life when I have enjoyed being around kids or wanted to have them. But even though I've never actually wanted them, even when I was little, I did think that I would at some point have them because those were the examples that were given to me. The choice was never really presented to me. My parents, grandparents, people, I grew up religious, so people in the church, it was always when you have kids, not if you choose to have kids. So until I got into my teenage years, I never really stopped to think about like, oh, wait, you can actually like choose when you have them, not only when, but if you have them at all. And I've always been really freaked out by pregnancy. I don't know if I have a genuine phobia of it or not, but I'm not going to be the friend who touches your belly while it moves or anything like that. I want no part of it. Not for me. Freaks me out. So that coupled with not enjoying the company of children, not wanting to be around children, it was just best that I didn't have them. And luckily, my husband, we've been married this year will be our 7th wedding anniversary. And luckily, we grew up together and we also grew up in the same direction on this topic as well. And my husband got a vasectomy a couple years ago. So we are both very, very much staunchly child-free.
I love that you brought up how you won't touch other or pregnant women's stomachs because I'm the same way. And I was literally just telling this to Graham how I think that's kind of cool that we don't do that because to me, that would be an invasion of like your personal bubble, your personal space.
Mhm.
Like, don't touch my stomach, don't touch my belly. Like, no, thank you. So I think
Right.
that's really cool. And go your husband for what he did. That's
Yes.
great.
And it was totally his idea. I always like to throw that out there because there's such this idea that like women really push their husbands into it. It was his idea. He asked me how I felt about it, and I told him that if that's something he wanted to do, that I was totally okay with it, and that it's his body. He was the one who would have to go through with it and be in a little bit of pain and deal with it. So yeah.
I think that leads us perfectly into one of the topics that I want to talk about today. And it's the idea that if we as women don't want kids, but our husband wants kids, that
Mm.
we should then make a baby for them. And it's just like, why is that like normalized? Why is that the thing that people think and say to us?
Yeah, I truthfully, I don't know. I don't know why anyone would think that that was a good idea. That if you truthfully, like as the woman in the relationship, if you truthfully do not want children, do not have a baby for a man. And what drives me crazy, I think what drives me crazy the most about it is I've heard so many stories, whether it be from people I know, people in my family, wherever, or on the internet, where the woman doesn't necessarily love the idea of having the kid. Maybe she's on the fence, maybe she's completely against it, but she doesn't want to lose this man. So she has a kid anyway, and before the baby arrives, the man most of the time is all about, "Oh, I will help you so much. I will pull my weight. I will blah, 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 blah." It never happens. It maybe never. It rarely happens that way, and the woman is saddled with all of the domestic labor of raising this baby that she didn't even really want. The man didn't have to go through any work to get the baby to be here, and he doesn't have to do a whole lot to raise it or to help with it. You know, I've seen it play out so many times. And, like some of the videos that I do on my YouTube channel are of regretful parents. So many of them start off similarly to that, that someone had a baby for someone else's benefit.
Yeah, it boggles my mind that people think that, like, don't we have bodily autonomy? Like, shouldn't we get the
Right.
full say in how we, like, live our lives and what we want to happen to our bodies? But it's like I had someone say to me, it's like, "Oh, but your husband must want kids." And it's like, he likes kids less than I like kids. He wants them way less than I do. So incorrect. But I actually want to share that I saw this affirmation and I just thought it was like so good. And it is, my body is not a rental,
Ooh,
right?
I love that.
So good.
Hmm.
Like, sorry, just because you want a kid doesn't mean my body is a rental. You can't rent me. No thanks. Unless you're a surrogate, but fine. But if you are child free by choice, you don't want kids, just because someone else, maybe it's your husband, maybe it's your mom, like they want to be grandparents, you don't have to rent out your body for someone else to have that, for them to live that life.
Right. And it's
Because
so much to put your body through. Like, no one else can have the baby for you. I mean, unless you do a surrogate. But barring that situation, no one else can birth a baby for you. Like if your mom wants you to have a baby, your husband, your friends, whoever it is, they're not going to be the ones pregnant. They're not going to be the ones giving birth. They're not going to be the ones waking up at 3 a.m. when the baby needs something. That's on you. And they're not going to be the ones that have to live the rest of your life with a child that you may or may not have even really wanted.
mhm. And it's like, I feel like this leads into, or maybe it's just part of it, but like it leads into us trying to be a people pleaser with our body. It's like trying to make
Mm,
sure we wear what other people want us to wear, trying to make sure our body looks the way other people want our bodies to look. It's like,
mhm.
it's just another way that we're trying to be a people pleaser with our body, but that's not our body's job.
That is so true. Do you know how long I had long hair because I was afraid of what other people would think of my hair if I cut it off? For those just listening, obviously I have a buzz cut, which is not normal, for a woman to have a buzz cut. Most women have hair. And I went so long worried about my hair, even though it absolutely drove me crazy. Like my hair touching me, my neck, my face. Oh my God. I always wore it up anyway because I couldn't stand it touching me. And one of the reasons it took me so long to cut it off was because I was worried how other people would perceive me if I cut it off.
Right. So it's like worrying about not being considered like feminine and things like that. But it's like,
Yeah.
change your definition of feminine. You don't have to
Right.
use society's definition of feminine.
Right.
And
And you can still be feminine with or without hair, without babies, with or without a certain body type, or with or without certain clothing on your body, all of these things.
1000%, I couldn't agree more. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to ask you is, have you ever felt insecure about a part of your body because of the idea that women should be mothers? So like, as an example, I was really insecure about my hips
Mm,
for the majority of my life. And it's because I was told I had birthing hips. And it's like, no, I have hips. They don't
Mhm.
have to be used to birth a child. So I was just
Right.
wondering if you've ever been insecure about a part of your body because of that.
So, talking about the hips, I have a similar thing. I vividly remember probably around the age of like 10 or 11. I remember telling my mom something about how like I didn't like the way my body looked because I didn't have hips yet. And she made the comment, "Oh, well, it's not time for you to have those yet." And I knew what she meant. Like, I had the vaguest of ideas by that point that, like, women have hips because birthing hips. Like, I'd heard that before, but I didn't want hips so that I could birth a baby. I wanted hips because I thought, "Oh, well, that's what women are supposed to look like. I'm a girl, but I don't look right," even though, like, 10-year-olds, they're children, right? So it just goes to show you how early the beauty standards really do start when you think about it. But I hated that she made that comment that like it wasn't time. It wasn't time for me to have it yet. And I'm like, well, even like it was just gross to me. It made me feel gross. I was like, well, I want to look that way, but I don't want me looking that way to mean that I have to have babies. Like that's gross to me.
That's so interesting that that's how she brought it up and like how that
Yes.
resonated with you when you were that age.
Mhm.
Um, but it's just like they're just hips. And it's like I was talking to Graham about this because we're pretty sure it's Graham who told me that I had birthing hips of like,
Yeah.
oh, well, like you just have hips that are made for birthing a child. And I'm like, don't say that to me. Like that is like the
Right.
meanest
Which
thing you could
isn't
say.
like it's not scientifically inaccurate, but that doesn't mean that we like the idea of it.
Yeah, but it's like our hips are also made for walking,
Right.
right? So they have another purpose.
Mhm.
But so that was one thing that I personally struggled with. And then I was also wondering if you can maybe relate to this too. But I hated Graham touching my stomach for so long because I worried like if he touched my stomach like in a photo, I thought people were going to think I was pregnant. And
Yes.
then Graham became afraid to even touch my stomach at all because he's like, you're going to get pissed if I touch your stomach. I can't do that.
That's so funny. I don't know if I got, like, super hung up on it, but I definitely understand where you're coming from because, I mean, that's how people do announcements, especially when we were younger, like, that was a really big thing of, like, the little hearts on the stomach with the hands, like, that was a thing, so it totally makes sense to me.
Yeah, I know that there's a couple of photos where I'm standing behind Graham. And it's like, no, I'll put my arms around your stomach, sir.
Yes.
Make
Do a
people
little
question if you're
switcheroo.
pregnant. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
One thing I
Cool.
do know though is that as far as like being insecure, like about your body, I have absolutely always loathed and hated the fact that I like get a period. And technically, I don't even get one because I'm on birth control. It's like continuous. So I don't even get one, but I don't even technically need the birth control because my husband had a vasectomy, but I stay on the birth control pretty much just because I don't want to deal with having a period. And I know that some people are going to like lose their minds because health reasons, I mean, people just get up in arms about crazy stuff sometimes, but like it's the truth. I do not want to have to deal with a period when it is like a monthly reminder that my body is able to make a baby when that is literally the last thing on this planet that I would want to do. And I don't think people can come to terms with a woman who is quote unquote supposed to want to be maternal. They cannot come to terms with me absolutely despising my ability to be able to do it.
Yeah, I mean, whether or not there are health reasons to be on or off of birth control, it's your body. It's the
Mhm,
whole thing with like whether or not you should have a baby. It's your body, it's your choice. But I felt a very similar way when it comes to periods of literally hating it. I thought it was disgusting. I thought it was gross. I thought it was pointless because
mhm.
I don't want to make a baby. And so it really took me like a long time to shift my mindset around it. And what worked for me is seeing it as a vital sign of health.
Mm.
So, like, the symptoms you have on your period can tell you a lot about how healthy or unhealthy you are and, like, what you can do in order to feel better. It's like periods shouldn't be painful is a really big thing. And so if it is painful, that's your body trying to tell you something. And so I try looking at it like that now, but there was definitely a long time where I was like, this is pointless. I don't want this. What the
Yep.
heck? And it's like, I know little Leah, she would have done anything and everything to never have a period ever again.
Mhm.
And it's like,
Big me is still there.
hey, whatever works for you. That's
That's
good.
funny. So, I remember the day that I got my period, I was devastated because I knew what it meant, that, like, I knew that it meant every month I was gonna be, like, uncomfortable, right? Like, the cramps, having to wear pads or tampons or what, and there's such a social thing with it too. It's like everyone knows women get periods, but no one wants to hear about it. No one wants to see it, know about it, anything. It's like this thing you have to hide, which is so bizarre because so many people do it, So many people menstruate, but it's like this thing you're supposed to hide. Anyway, I remember when I got my period, I freaked out and I was like, "Mom, mom." So she runs into the bathroom and like I show her my underwear and she was excited for me. She was like, "Oh, this is the good thing." I'm like, "Ma'am, no, it is not." Because I was not happy about it. I did not want to be uncomfortable every month. I did not want to have babies. I did not want to deal with this thing. It was always just like the way it was talked about in school, the way just everyone around me treated periods was like it was this big thing that needed to be embarrassed about and hidden, and you didn't want them. And like I already didn't want it because of the baby thing. So it was just a lot. And I'm like, Mom, seriously, no, it's not. Like, I'm not happy about this.
There was seriously so much shame around it. Like, I remember being in the
Yes.
stalls and, like, you're always trying to be so quiet, and it's like,
Yes, yes, unwrap your stuff real quiet.
no one can know
God.
you're a woman, but, like,
Mhm.
you're a woman.
Right. It's
Um,
just it's bizarre.
yeah, just a funny story to share about my first time. I was at my grandparents' with my
Oh,
dad,
no.
and I thought I
Oh,
was
no.
dying.
Ah!
I literally thought I was dying, and I went back because we had, like, just finished having dinner. I went back to the, dining room area, and I was like, "Dad, can I see you?" And he's like, "What?" And I was like, "No, Dad, can I see you, please, in the living room?" And then, like, somehow my mom was just, like, calling, like, she just knew. And
Uh-huh.
she's like, "Is Leah okay?" And I was like, "No, I'm not, I'm dying."
Oh,
So it's like it can also be, like, traumatic your first time. There's so much shame around it, and it's like
yes.
people want you to feel comfortable, like, I think they want you to feel comfortable, but they're gonna shame you all the way through your life.
Yes, it's like they want you to feel they say, "Oh, you should feel comfortable about this, it's no big deal," but then literally every other thing you see tells you the exact opposite. The way everyone else responds to it is like, "No, this is a big deal, and it's something I should be ashamed of and hiding."
Yeah, it's
So, yeah.
natural, but don't call it by its real name. Don't call it a period. You have to call it something else, or it's that time of the month, or Aunt Flo.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can't even say the name because you're going to get judged and you're going to feel shame. And it's like,
Mhm.
we're feeling that way then about our body every single month.
Yes. Yes, that's exactly the point. It's like my period always made me feel like I don't want this. I don't want to have to deal with this. This isn't something that I should be having to deal with because I'm never going to utilize this system of my body, and then coupled with how much shame everyone else seems to deal with it just made me feel like I'm gross. Everyone knows I'm gross. Everyone knows that I can make babies, and I hate that. So
Oh,
bizarre how our adolescent brains link all of this stuff together. But even now, I'm like, ooh, I don't like the fact that my parents know that I could have sex and produce a baby. That's gross to me. Like ooh, no, not
okay.
me.
But like when it comes to people who are like, we're pregnant, all I can think about is how gross it is to know that we know they had sex and how they did it.
Yes, yes, that is the first thing I think when I see pregnancy announcements. I'm like, you're literally just announcing that you had sex.
Yeah.
I
And
don't
it's like,
care. Ooh,
but that is so celebrated though.
yes, yes.
So, since society has normalized all women wanting to be mothers, I find it interesting how people think that they can make comments and assumptions on strangers' bodies. But so I had three specific instances I wanted to share with you. And I would just love to know if it's ever happened to you and how does it impact how you feel about your body. But so I was at the beach, I guess a month or so ago, and this random guy, like middle-aged guy, stops me to talk to me. And the
Mhm.
conversation somehow led to, oh, like you're working off the baby fat. I was like, one, don't comment on like my body like that. But two, why did you assume that I was pregnant and had a kid? And then I was at Whole Foods and the guy behind me was like, oh, like that's all the food for your kids. And I was like, this is my husband a kid? Like, I'm feeding myself and my husband. And then the third one was at a memorial that
Like someone
someone,
had died?
yeah,
Oh my God.
that someone said to Graham, oh, I don't see a baby bump on Leah yet. And it's like, uh, I don't even know. And I know for a couple of those, I'm able to like laugh it off, brush it off. But a couple, it's like, it really does put you back into your head of thinking of how your body looks like. So, has this ever happened to you and what did you do?
Okay. To my knowledge that I remember, this has only happened to me once, but I don't know if I'll ever be able to forget this because I was so embarrassed and so self-conscious for years after this happened. Okay. So I would have been 20. So my husband and I took his it was like a cousin uncle situation. He was an older guy. It was his birthday. We took him out to eat. This man was like 80 something years old. Okay. And so Shelton is a year older than me, so he could drink, and obviously this 80-year-old was drinking. So they both ordered beers, and this guy thought it was so funny. This older guy, he thought it was so funny that I wasn't 21 yet, and I had to drink the sweet tea or whatever. And he was just playing around like old men do. So when the waitress came to the table, when I ordered sweet tea, he said, oh, yeah, she's got about another 9 or 10 months before she can drink because it was 9 or 10 months before my 21st birthday. Okay. But because he said 9 or 10 months, she immediately thought that I was pregnant, which I don't blame her. Like, I probably would have thought the same in her position too. But like, she was like, oh, congratulations. And she was like treating me weird the rest of the meal because she thought I was pregnant, even though I didn't look pregnant. Like, I was probably 150 pounds at the time. Like, a wind could have knocked me over at the time. But it made me so self-conscious. Like, even now looking back, I was like, I was super skinny. I did not look pregnant. There was no way that someone could have thought like that I was legitimately pregnant. But it made me self-conscious for months that my stomach made me look pregnant or something like that. But I cannot believe that someone came up at a memorial service and started with that nonsense. They are relentless.
It was Graham's grandpa's memorial.
Oh my God.
And I think it was like a neighbor, maybe. And they were just like, oh, I don't see a baby bump on Leah yet. And it's like,
It's
good.
inappropriate.
I'm
Like
really happy you don't see.
it's inappropriate at any time to do that because like everyone always says like, well, what if she's been trying for 3 years? No one knows. but it's so inappropriate anytime that, like, someone has passed away. They're
Yeah,
laying in a coffin at the front of the room, and you're worried about people having babies. Calm down, sir.
I
Wow.
agree. I
And then
was
the guy
just
on the beach and the guy in the grocery store, I feel like some people are just really unaware of the things that they say, and they just some people are really uncomfortable with silences in conversations, and they just blurt out the first thing that comes to their mind, and they just assume that every person who presents as a woman must have a child somewhere on the planet or must want one or something, you know? So they just say things.
yeah. And I mean, for the first guy on the beach, it was unfortunate because he was also telling me about how he liked to get vengeance on people that did him wrong and stuff like that. So, like, I
Oh,
didn't
no.
want to come off as rude. I didn't want to, like, speak up for myself. So I was just like,
Yeah.
yep, and just slowly start walking away. So I don't think he is gonna learn his lesson, unfortunately. But then the guy at the grocery store, I was just like, oh no, I don't have kids. This is for my husband and I. Don't want them. And then it was just awkward silence as I just stand there
Nice.
waiting to like pay for my groceries, and he's just like, so I hope he learned his lesson and won't do that again.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then for the people at the memorial, I'm just so happy they said it to just Graham and not to me because it's like you're already emotional. It's like I might have said something I shouldn't around my in-laws. So,
Uh-huh. I wouldn't have been able to help myself. I literally would have been like, "Grandpa's laid up dead, and you're worried about my uterus. You need to get it together.
get
What's
a
wrong?"
hobby.
Yes, get a hobby, get a life. Like, what's wrong with you? What did Graham say?
Oh, well, this is something that bugs me a lot about Graham. He's
Oh, no.
very neutral.
Mm,
He won't typically say anything that could come off as like black or white. He'll just be
mm.
like, "Oh, I don't know. Yeah, maybe. Uh." And
Oh,
so,
God.
yeah, and it's like, "No, Graham, we both know we're not having kids. Just say,
Right.
no, we're not having kids."
Mhm.
But then it's just not how his brain works. So,
But it's also like, what an awful position for him to be in. His grandpa just died, and people are pestering him about something so stupid, and he doesn't wanna, like, start shit at a memorial.
yeah, exactly.
Poor Graham. Mm.
Yeah. So, Graham says I say this wrong, but I have an argument that if our one true purpose was to actually just have kids, then I don't think those organs would be optional. Like, we can live without a uterus and those organs. So if it was actually our one true purpose, that like it would be mandatory to like you can't live without it. And so Graham says I say that wrong, like I'm not arguing the right way, but I'm still standing by my argument. And I was just wondering what you think of that.
I mean, it makes sense to me. Like, if you lose both of your lungs, you're dead. If you lose your heart, you're dead. Your brain, you're dead. Liver, all these other things, like, you're gonna have like, yeah, you can literally have your uterus, ovaries, tubes, whatever, taken out of your body, and you're gonna be okay. And men could literally lose their entire testicle or both of them and be fine and survive and not keel over. So I don't see a problem with it.
Yeah, and there you
I
go.
think it's fine. Like, yeah, it should be optional, and it is optional because
hmm
if someone can't have a baby, mentally they might be very upset, very distraught, but physically they're not going to keel over.
Yeah, and it's like they can still have other purposes. It's like we were saying how our brain can provide us with purpose and is vital, right?
Mhm.
So it's like your one true job doesn't have to be a mother if you don't want it to be. It is
Right.
optional. You don't have to listen to society. You don't have to rent out your body to them. You're all good. You can hang with us.
And that also kind of goes along with that argument that some people will make, like, oh, well, we're all just mammals and mammals are born to just breed and die. Like, that is literally an argument I've seen people make on the internet about why it's wrong for people to not have children. Okay. But if we were just animals, the internet wouldn't exist. Computers, phones, I mean, shit, regular houses wouldn't exist because we would be living up in the trees with the raccoons or something. I don't know. Like, we wouldn't, if all we were here to do was have babies and eat shit and die, we wouldn't have advanced. We wouldn't have used our brains to build a society where people have choices. It's not that they actually believe that, they just don't like women have choices.
Mm, preach.
Okay.
Okay, the other thing that I wanted to share with you, and it's just something that I guess I was 15, but I was told not to get a tattoo on my rib cage in case I ever had kids. And it's just like,
Same.
yeah, another area where it's like, you gotta save your body just in case. What if you change your mind? It's like, what if I don't?
Mm-hmm.
What if I can be 15 and be completely certain I never want kids?
Mm-hmm. And it's
It drives
also funny that people would be so concerned about you regretting a tattoo when you can get a tattoo lasered off. I mean, the skin's not going to be perfect, but you can't return a kid. And there are plenty of people who regret having kids. So,
Mhm.
but similar thing has happened to me as well.
I didn't want this episode to come off as like, oh, because I'm child free, I have body image issues because having a
Mm,
child would not fix those issues.
no, not at all.
It's like you would just have a whole other level of body image issues if you had a child.
Yeah,
Um, but it's just like society needs to get with it and learn that motherhood is optional. You don't have to be a mother. And how, I don't know, I guess it's like teaching other people to not make those comments about your body, whether or not it's about being a mother or just anything else. It's like, can we just stop making comments about people's bodies and making assumptions about them in their life?
right. Because like any woman could have stretch marks or cellulite or saggy boobs, saggy butt. I don't know, any of these other things that are like quote unquote acceptable for moms to have because they've grown a new life. So it's okay. But even in our society, it's so messed up. Even moms are not immune. We say like, oh, well, it's okay for moms to look like that. But no, it's really not. At the end of the day, all of us are held to these ridiculous standards. It's just sometimes when you have a kid, you get a little bit more of a pass with it than if you haven't had a kid. But anyone can have a body that looks what you might think like what a mom body looks like and not be a mom at all. It's just a body.
Exactly. And your body is not the problem.
No. But to go back to the tattoo thing, my first tattoo is on my stomach, and someone told me multiple times they thought this joke was so funny that, oh, that bird's going to look like a toucan when you get pregnant.
So again,
Mm,
the assumption then also that your stomach and your tattoo is going to look bad after, but it's also a toucan is cool.
right.
A
Yeah.
toucan is a cool
First of
bird,
all,
but also like don't make that comment. And it's like again
right.
the assumption.
I was 18. Like on my 18th birthday, getting my first tattoo. I heard that joke multiple times. Oh, it's going to look like a toucan when you get pregnant. And I'm just like, bro, I'm not gonna get pregnant though. And also, you're like a 40-something-year-old man telling me this. Like, why? Why do you care what I'm doing? Like,
Yeah,
ooh,
and it's like they're saying that to you when you're 18, and I bet they'd probably judge you pretty hard if you got pregnant at 18.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It would have been irresponsible and, oh, out of wedlock because of the religion thing, and it would have been a catastrophe, right? Yet they
Mhm.
still make those comments as if it's something I should be concerning myself with at 18.
Yeah, and it's like, "But I thought you wanted me to have kids. Do I
Mhm.
not get to then have them when I want to have them?
Right.
You're just gonna
Which is
judge
a
the
whole
entire
nother
process?"
thing. It's a whole lot like that is a whole other thing that drives me crazy is that when young people say they do want children, no one questions that. But when someone of the same age says they don't want children, you get, "Oh, you're gonna change your mind. You're too young to know. You'll meet the right person and then you'll want kids." Like, no one believes you when you're 15 and say you don't want kids. But if a 15-year-old says they want 4, it's, "Oh, that's great. Good for you."
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
Um, it wasn't until I started sharing publicly that I didn't want kids that I feel like my family members finally understood that I wasn't going to change my mind, and it's literally thanks to your account because I, like, saw you being unapologetically child-free by choice, and, like, I think it was maybe in your bio because this was years ago. Um,
Mm,
and I was just like, "Oh my god, like, that's so brave to put that in your bio." That you're child free by choice, that is so brave. Because I was like,
ah,
you're gonna get judged so hard. But then I started doing it and I realized that I finally wasn't alone. Cause I don't think I knew anyone growing up who didn't want kids aside from two aunts and uncles who don't have kids, but I didn't connect it in that way at that age. And so it's just like, I never saw that. And I thought with everyone telling me, "Oh, you're gonna change your mind. You're crazy to not want kids, but you're so good with kids."
mm.
That to see someone publicly share that they don't want kids, I was like, "Holy crap, that's so cool."
That's why it's just so important to, like, share your story, whether it's about child-free stuff or whatever it is, just share your story, who you are, unapologetically, because then you can help people, and you find other people who like you for who you are, because you're not pretending to be somebody else.
I've had multiple people after seeing my content about being child free be like, "Oh, Leah, like I hadn't met anyone else who like doesn't want kids or like I'm not sure if I want kids, but like I feel like I have to have kids for my parents." And it's like, "No, you don't." And I'm so happy to be able to share with them now. It's like, "Go follow Kimberly." And no, you don't have to. And let me at them if you want help. Like we'll go to battle for you to
Oh
not have
my.
kids.
Yes. Yes.
I have 2 questions that I ask all of my guests, and the first one is, what do you wish you could go back and tell younger Kimberly?
Oh. Hmm. Oh, Imma have to think on that a minute. What's the second question?
No problem. The second one is, what advice would you give to someone who is trying to learn to love their body?
Oh God. Both of those are hard. Um, I would tell my younger self, just be yourself. Stop trying to look and be a certain way to fit in with who you think you wanna fit in with. Because I spent, especially, like, my high school years and very, very beginning of my 20s, I spent so much time trying to look and act and present as someone that I wouldn't even wanna hang out with now, right? Um, and and I don't even really know why. I mean, I know why. It like, the friends I had in high school, I wanted to keep, you know, I wanted to keep up with them. I wanted to stay in that circle that I found myself in high school, and it wasn't necessarily a bad circle. It just wasn't my circle. It wasn't who I was supposed to be, and it definitely isn't who I am now, and I'm so glad. So, I mean, honestly, like, it's so hard, and it's such a cliche piece of advice that just be yourself, but that's, like, it feels impossible when you're 15 years old. to
Oh,
be yourself. You don't even know who you are.
100%. But I love how you said that. It's like the person that you are becoming, do you want to hang out with them?
Right.
Because then maybe you're not becoming yourself. You're trying to become someone else's personality, someone else's look, someone else's
Mhm.
identity. But it's like, who are
Yes.
you? Who is Kimberly?
Someone else, like, I was trying to be someone else that they found acceptable, that they wanted to be around, that they liked. And then it's crazy because the minute you start deviating from that and kind of, I don't know, they throw you away. They're like, "No, this isn't what we want." So
Mhm.
just be yourself.
Yes, be yourself. And it's like, let the people that you're around get the opportunity to love you for who you truly are.
Mhm,
That's something I've been hearing so much lately. And it's just like, I was the same way. That's like, I was constantly like taking on other people's personalities because I thought that's what they wanted in their friendships and in their lives. And I was
mhm,
never giving people the opportunity to just like me for who I am. It's like letting people know that you're child free by choice. It's like I was
mhm.
so afraid that people would judge me and not like me for who I am. So it's like you hide that. You don't publicly share that. But then you're not letting them actually like you for who you are. And there are people who will like you for who you are.
Exactly. And especially, if being child free is a huge part of your life. Like if you are very much child free, you're never going to have kids, all these things. Like if you want to surround yourself with more people who feel the same way, you have to let people know how you feel because people can't read your minds. Like they have to know who you are, what you believe in, what you stand for, what your life is like in order to know who you really are.
I love that. Okay. So, what advice would you give to someone who is working on loving their body more?
The first thing that comes to mind is something that you taught me, which is buy clothes that actually fit you regardless of what the tag says. And that's something that I've definitely had to learn over the past couple of years because learning from you, I don't even know how much I weigh. Like I stopped weighing myself. I still have the scale, but it's like under a piece of furniture in my bathroom. It's all dusty and crusty. And I refuse to get on it. There have even been times when I've thought about it and I'm like, "No, Leah told me don't do it. It's not nothing good gonna come of it. I'm just gonna feel like shit about myself after I do it because that number, even if the number was lower than I thought it would be, I would still fixate on it because I'm such a stickler for numbers for some reason. But not weighing myself and getting clothes that fit me because I held on to clothes for so long thinking like, "Oh, I'm gonna lose weight and I'm gonna be able to wear those shorts again or wear that shirt again." And then at the end of the day, I'm like, "Shit, I've had this clothing for 3 years. I don't even like this shirt anymore. This is not even my style anymore, yet for some reason, I'm still trying to fit my body into this shirt that I don't even like." But it's not even about the shirt. It's about fitting into this smaller body that we're conditioned to think like shrink yourself to be better, you know?
Yeah, that is some great advice, I must say.
I mean, it's your advice. So.
Um, but no, I was actually talking to Graham about the whole scale thing, and it's because my brother just got his private pilot's license, and so I want him to take us up in this little plane. I think that's so cool.
Oh, yeah.
But he said that he has to know what we weigh in order to know like how much gas to put in the plane. It's like it's
Mm,
safety reasons. Okay, cool.
yeah.
But I will step on the scale and not look, and my brother can get the information he needs because he's the only one that needs that information. And Graham
Mm,
was saying to me, it's like, well, is that not a little like extreme that like you can't even know the number? It's like, but why do I need to know it? I
that's
don't want to
true.
see that number and then all of a sudden start like unconsciously changing how I'm taking care of my body and how I'm treating myself.
Mhm. Because it would be so easy to be like, "Oh, well, it's an exception because, like you said, it's for safety reasons. It would be so easy for you to rationalize it and look at your weight and tell your brother. But then, even though you'll try your hardest, it's going to be so hard for you to not fall back into like old patterns and being like, oh, well, I weighed X and that's kind of high. Maybe I should eat a little bit differently today, or work out a little bit more, or drink more water, or whatever it is. Yeah, no, I totally understand that.
Exactly, and it's like it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, it feels like, for my brother to fly us in a plane, and we
Hmm.
don't own a scale, so it's not like I can just step on a scale and check myself, so it's like my
Yeah,
brother owns a scale, we'll go to his house, I'll close my eyes, put on a blindfold, grab, like, hide
yeah.
my eyes,
You're like,
and
just
it's just
write it
like
down and don't tell me.
exactly, and it's just I don't know, it's almost I don't know why this thought just came into my head, but it's like an alcoholic who's recovering from being an alcoholic and they get put into a bar. And
Hmm.
it's like, are you going to order that drink? Are you
Yeah.
going to look at the alcohol menu?
Mhm. It's like it
No.
would be like they could go into a bar and do it and not drink, but it's gonna be really hard for them, and then that might be all it takes to put that little, like, thought into their head that, "Oh, well, I did it, so maybe I can start drinking again, and I can control it this time." Yeah, it's totally similar to that.
Exactly. So I love that advice and I'm happy that it's coming out that way. So thank you. This has been so much fun. I'm so excited for everyone to listen to this. And if you are debating being child free by choice, if you're like, oh, I feel like I have to be a mother, but you're like, I don't want to be a mother, come hang out with us. Go follow Kimberly on Instagram. Go follow her on, is it following on YouTube or is it subscribing?
Subscribe or just
Oh.
watch.
But go watch her videos on YouTube. You will not be disappointed. You will be laughing your butt off and you'll be like, oh, thank you. Someone is saying it. And it's like, we need this nice little happy corner on the internet where you feel safe to be child free by choice. And like, we're not going to
Mhm.
judge you. We're going to love you and you're not alone. And it's just a great place to be.
Yep. And if I'm not for you, there are plenty of other people on Instagram, especially making child-free content. You will be able to find somebody that makes content that resonates with you. So, yes, join the
Yeah.
child-free community.
Yeah. You just got to look for it and know that there are those environments out there that you can put yourself into. You
Mhm.
just have to start looking for them and then you'll find them.
Yep.
So, thank you so much for spending your time with us.
You're
And
welcome.
friendly reminder that your body is not the problem and you're not crazy if you don't want to be a mother.